Hey, okay, so I wanted to make a quick video just to answer a question that I get quite often. And the question is, why Bitcoin? Why are we taking Bitcoin and not the dollar? Well, I can't really answer that question in the comment section, so I promised to make a video about it. And quite honestly, if you're asking this question in 2024, then you haven't done much reading about many topics. And what I recommend is you start to educate yourself. Because if you're asking this question in 2024, it's like asking in the year 2000, why use the internet? Or why use email? Or why sell my things online? Why e-commerce? It's like asking this sort of question. It's been 15 years now since Bitcoin was invented and hit the mainstream. So I think that's enough time. As history shows, it's enough time for you guys to educate yourself. And no one's going to do it for you. All right, I'll go into a little history so you can kind of get the idea and the picture of what I'm saying. The internet was invented in the 1960s. Okay, this is almost 60 years, well, more than 60 years ago. And the Mac, as you guys know, the Apple brand, their first computer was the Mac. And the first Windows computer was the first Windows computer, and these computers were invented in the 1845 or 1985 and 1984. So 35 years ago, or no, 40 years ago now, almost 40 years ago. And the Mac and the Windows computer were invented in 85, around that time, same time, and only 8% of the population in the United States were using computers at the time. Only 8%. And it wasn't until 15 years after that, in the year 2000, when half the population were using computers. And I'm not going to go too much into more history or other details, but you can just do some research. The same pattern you can see with cell phones, internet, email, e-commerce, pretty much any new technology. It takes about a decade and a half, about 15 to 20 years for half the population to start adopting it. And these are technologies and these are machines, software, hardware that pretty much in its time, they were given fair marketing, honest, fair marketing, and it was promoted a lot in magazines and movies and TV shows, etc. Now the difference is that Bitcoin doesn't have that same exposure because no one owns it. No one really controls it like a company. No one really controls it like the way someone controls Amazon and Apple and Macintosh and Windows and Tesla, etc. No one can really say, hey, I own Bitcoin. I own the company of Bitcoin. It's a protocol. It's a mathematical formula that exists on the internet. It's actually created a new layer of internet, in other words. So for someone to ask me today, why Bitcoin? It's because they're asking that question because they don't understand what it is. They don't understand what Bitcoin is. And further, they don't even understand what money is. Because if they simply knew what money was, and I'm talking about fiat money, fiat currency, money that is printed, like monopoly money that is basically printed into thin air by the Federal Reserve, which causes inflation, which causes the devaluation of your dollar that you're working so hard for, that you're waking up in the mornings, spending your entire life at a certain job or working for a certain boss. All that time and energy, physical exchange, you're earning dollars, you're earning fiat currency, basically money created out of thin air, money that could just be printed, and you're slaving away for it. So when you ask why Bitcoin, why don't you understand money? You have a cell phone, I'm pretty sure you have high-speed internet connection. You have apps, you have ChatGPT, you have Wikipedia, you have books. I mean, there really is no excuse 15 years later to be asking why Bitcoin? Why are we taking Bitcoin as a form of currency? I don't even need to get into Bitcoin that much. If I can just talk to you about the dollar and the history of the dollar, you should realize, hey, we should find another solution. We shouldn't use the dollar anymore because take a look at history. History repeats itself. That's why you should know about it. And you should know history so that you can avoid making the same mistakes in the future. Take a look at a few countries that this has happened to in very recent times. Look at Venezuela, look at Argentina, look at Zimbabwe, look at Greece. This just happened recently. This collapse, economic collapse, happened to these countries because they hyperinflated their economy. They printed money without stopping, and look at the consequences. Germany in the 1920s and 30s, they printed money like crazy, and then they went bankrupt, and then we had a Second World War. So these things are out there. They're not being hidden from you. I mean, I think we're living in very different times now in comparison to like the 80s and the 90s, because in the 80s and the 90s, like I said, it was more honest marketing. There was more, I feel at the time, when it comes to these new technologies, software and hardware, there was more transparency as far as what power these things had. And there were a lot of journals and blogs. Even blogging was a new thing. Not a lot of people were blogging in the 80s and 90s. And now everyone's a blogger. And it's like what's crazy one day and what's not normal one day, and scary in another time, it's actually normal and the standard. Like now it's normal for everyone to have internet and have email and have and if you're selling anything online, to have it being sold online on an e-commerce platform like Shopify. So how does this happen? Who decides to turn on the switch on the collective masses, on the minds of the masses, to say, hey guys, this is all normal, you should all do it? And it takes place one by one with adoption. It's like people only start to change once they see their neighbor have new things. I can talk to you about whatever topic. Let's say, like, I don't know, buying a car, a Tesla, whatever, for example. You won't care until your neighbor has it. And this is human nature, and that's how human beings work. Not until your neighbor starts to have upgrades and start to live a better life. And then let's say, you find out that your neighbor has actually invested in Bitcoin 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and now they're living better than you are. Well, now you're interested. But now you're interested for the wrong reasons. And this is why it's hard for people to understand what Bitcoin is and what money is, because it doesn't have a direct, immediate impact on your life. Your life is being funded by debt. Everything is debt. All this fiat currency is debt. Every time money is being printed every single day, it's debt. Because the Fed prints it, they lend it to the banks at an interest, then the banks lend it to you at an interest. So if interest is being compounded upon interest, who's going to pay all this interest? The United States is $36 or $37 trillion in debt. All right, so, and you're still wondering why use Bitcoin? Why not the dollar? I don't want debt. I don't want your debt. I don't want money backed up by nothing. The dollar hasn't been backed up by anything since 1971. That's when Nixon took it off the gold standard, because he was bribed or probably threatened for his life by the elites, by the people that control the money. Because who said it? I think it was Rockefeller or the Rothschilds. They said, why get into politics if I control the money? If I control the money, I control the politics. It's very true. And we use Bitcoin because, like I said, no one controls it. And the reason why Bitcoin has had a slower rate of adoption, well, I don't really think it's that slow when you compare it to even like the internet. That took like 50 years for it to get adopted. Bitcoin has a lot of negative press. You have this guy, this bald guy, Kevin, whatever, from Shark Tank, who's been preaching for many years that Bitcoin is toxic, that it's rat poison, and the whole time he's buying it himself. Yeah, and I don't respect people like that, because they're not trying to help you guys. They're trying to, support this false narrative on a currency, on a new digital currency that could actually give you financial sovereignty. And in the background, they're buying it for themselves. They're just using their own platform, their own fame, and their own influence to maintain the price low. They put fear into you. They put insecurity into you, because they know that it already exists. Most people already live with fear and insecurity. This is already a known fact. And they nail this insecurity and fear into you. This is one of their biggest currencies. The control system uses fear as its greatest currency to have you under control. And when it comes to Bitcoin, all you hear about is fear-mongering news. But it's been going up. It used to cost $1 in 2010. In 2008, 2008 it cost 30 cents. The mainstream media doesn't tell you that, because the mainstream media doesn't want you to be free. The mainstream media is controlled by the same people that control the money and the politics, and these people, they prefer to see you a slave to the dollar. It says on the dollar, "In God we trust." They want you to trust in the dollar, your God. So they print it endlessly. They tell you that there is no inflation, that it's all good, that they can just keep printing it whenever they want, have you trade all of your time and energy for it, and live in this rat race, chasing this inflated money. And Bitcoin is the solution. Bitcoin was actually launched and invented right after the collapse, the housing collapse in 09, 08. And a lot of you still don't even know what happened then in 08 and 09. And you're asking, why not the dollar? Well, don't you know what happened? Don't you know that so many millions of Americans lost their pensions and their retirements and their homes because the banks abused their power? And they fooled you, they tricked you, they used languages that you don't understand, and they fed on your human nature instincts of wanting things for free and easily and cheaply. Free mortgages, cheap mortgages, and you paid the price for not educating yourself. You jumped into something too quick. So all I'm asking you, for you guys to do is educate yourself on what the dollar is. I recommend a very, very interesting book called The Creature on Jekyll Island. It's about how a group of private investors got together on this island and they came up with a plan to create the Federal Reserve, a private bank that would become the central bank that would lend the dollar to the government, to the US government. And there were a lot of presidents and there were a lot of famous and wealthy people who opposed this idea. And very coincidentally, a lot of these people who opposed the idea went on a very nice cruise one day in April in 1912. And the people who were pro the Federal Reserve, they didn't go on that trip. They backed out last minute. They said, no, I don't feel like it. My stomach hurts. My son is sick. I have to stay home. And they stayed home. And all of these good, wealthy people who were opposing the Federal Reserve because they understood that it would mean slavery for America. They went all on this nice cruise ship called the Titanic. And it sank in the middle of the ocean. And you guys cried watching the movie. And you guys love Leonardo DiCaprio. But you're not realizing that he's, in a way, feeding you a lie. You guys think that the guy navigating the ship was on his phone looking at Instagram and TikTok, and then when he looked up he saw a huge iceberg and he crashed into it and they sank. You know, there's a saying that says it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. I have witnessed this my whole life. It is easier to fool you guys and to keep that lie going, because a lie told enough times becomes the truth. But anyway, the very next year that this Titanic sank, the Federal Reserve was established in the United States. I'm not saying, I just connect dots. That's all I do. I'm a very good dot connector. I'm very good at the game Connect 4. I barely lose. So that's all I'm saying. I'm saying just open your mind, read, learn about history, learn about the dollar. You'll see there that the dollar is monopoly money. That's why we don't want it. Bitcoin is true currency. There's stored value. It's finite. It's deflationary, meaning as time passes by, it's worth more. So why would we want a printed paper money backed up by nothing that is losing value every day? I can't really answer this question nicely. I'm answering this question as if someone that I loved were to ask me, and I would say, hey man, go pick up a book. Put the phone down, put TikTok down, put Instagram down. Stop focusing and worrying about other people and watching these dumb shows on Netflix. Go pick up a book. There's dozens of books online. Some of them are free. Watch a course on YouTube. Learn, educate yourself. This is why we're taking Bitcoin. And the question stands, we might take other digital currencies, but we don't know yet. For now, we're taking Bitcoin, right? So I have this book ready for you guys, as I promised. There's two versions, English and Spanish. It's about all the things I learned in my life when I had to be on my own from the ages of 8 and 9 years old, on my own in New York. My parents were just too busy you know, like still living out their own life, which is the case for a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys are in the same situation because it's a generational thing. You guys have to understand and have compassion for your parents and understand that, you know, they didn't have it easy. They didn't have an easy childhood. They were probably living under a lot of stress and extortion and war and what have you. So it's not fair for us to blame anyone else. We have to take responsibility of our own life and have courage and face it, and face the challenges with courage and bravery. And everything is possible. You just have to have the mindset right. You have to, you know, fix your mind, adjust your mindset, and take things on head on. All right, so I hope you guys enjoy the book. There's some good tips in there, and yeah, we'll keep you posted on the lots that are coming out. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of moving parts. There's people in several countries that are making this possible. And last thing to note, my partner, co-founder of the platform, Jaco, was at the airport and he sent me this picture of these lots. I think it's called Don Carlos, the lots in Don Carlos, and they're basically a little bit bigger than the lots we'll be selling. They're 233 square meters. Ours are 200 square meters. We're starting to sell ours at 5K. They're selling theirs for 78K. Okay, so if you don't think that what we're doing is for the right of humanity and for the betterment of all you people, and the fact that we're using Bitcoin is to push that agenda for you guys to have your financial sovereignty and to get away from the dollar, for you to little by little start educating and playing with wallets and sending transfers to Bitcoin to your mom, to your dad, and they send it back to you. Do this as you would play with the internet when you were younger, when you went on Google and Wikipedia and Yahoo and downloaded Kazaa and LimeWire, whatever. Like, you know, have fun with it, play around with it, learn about it. The sooner the better. The sooner you start to take control of your education and what you know, the sooner you'll have your own financial sovereignty and your own freedom. All right, so thanks to you guys, and thanks to you guys who watch it in Spanish and English. I know that most of my videos are in Spanish, but that's because I feel that my people need a lot of these messages, because, you know, there really isn't anyone in our community or culture that is helping them in this way. Most of the people in our culture are just entertainer clowns, like reggaeton artists or sport players, and a lot of them are under these contract same, you know, narrative agendas that are pushing scarcity and fear mongering. And I've never signed any contracts with anyone. I work for myself and I work for God. So this is why I send messages out to my people, because they need it, and I'm going to keep doing that. And once in a while I'll do videos in English when I get asked these silly questions that, you know, they shouldn't be asked anymore. Bitcoin came out 15 years ago. Why haven't you learned about it? So learn about these things that can change your life. Learn it for yourself, but also learn it for the sake of your family, because it always takes that one person in every family generation to change the course of their financial history and their financial future. So do that this coming year. Start fresh. Make goals. Stick to your goals. Start small so you can go big later. All right, guys. Peace out. Thanks.